Alrighty, party peoples of the interwebs, there's the old expression when someone tells you who they are, listen.
Kamala Harris is a commie.
I just finished watching Lex Fridman's podcast with Donald Trump, and there was a moment in that interview where I swear for a moment I thought Lex Fridman was about to see the light. When he's asking Donald Trump, he says, you know, you call Kamala Harris a communist, and a lot of people, myself included, don't consider herself to be a communist. And then Donald Trump said, you know, her father was a Marxist. And Lex Fridman says, yeah, her father was a Marxist. And yeah, she does espouse some policies that could be described as socialist Democrat. There's a word for that. It's called communist.
There's a lot of people listening to this, myself included, that doesn't think that Kamala is a communist.
Well, she's a Marxist.
Her father's a Marxist. That's
right.
And she's advocating.
It's a little unusual, you know.
She's advocating for some policies that are towards the direction of democratic socialism, let's say.
My Homer is not a communist. He may be a liar, a pig, an idiot, a communist, but he is not a porn star.
But when someone tells you who they are, listen. There was another video clip going quasi-viral on Twitter today, and it was being passed off as Kamala Harris supporting what's being done in Brazil to censor, suppress, or deplatform X. That video clip was taken somewhat out of context. If you looked at that clip closely, Kamala Harris looked somewhat younger than she looks like today, and I had to go do a little digging, and it turns out that that video clip is from a Jake Tapper interview from 2019, and in context, it's even more devastating than taken out of context.
He has 65 million Twitter followers. He has proven himself to be willing to obstruct justice. Just ask Bob Mueller. You can look at the manifesto from the shooter in El Paso to know that what Donald Trump says on Twitter impacts people's perceptions about what they should and should not do. And we're talking about a private corporation, Twitter, that has terms of use. And as far as I'm concerned, and I think most people would say, including members of Congress who he has threatened, that he has lost his privileges and it should be taken down. And the bottom line is that you can't say that you have one rule for Facebook and you have a different rule for Twitter. The same rule has to apply, which is that there has to be a responsibility that is placed on these social media sites to understand their power. They are directly speaking to millions and millions of people without any level of oversight or regulation. And that has to stop.
As you saw in that clip, it wasn't Kamala Harris saying, yeah, X benefits from some privileges and should be taken down if they don't respect the law. No, she was saying that the President of the United States of America should not have the privilege of using X to communicate with the American citizens. It's far more dangerous than censorship. It's outright communism. Communism, statism, democratic socialism, Maoism, whatever the hell you want to call it, it's not American democracy. And the reality is that Kamala Harris has been telling us who she is for a very long time now, at the very least 5 years, as has her running mate, Tim No Balls, A Walls, Lying, Stolen Valor, Walls. I said his name. You know what I mean. Tim Walls.
Tim Walz lives a double life. In Minnesota, Walz campaigns as a moderate, but in Washington votes almost 100% with the liberal leadership. Here, Walz says he's for new drilling, but voted there for a ban on drilling that will just keep gas prices high. And Walz claims to be a friend of farmers here, but in Washington supports higher taxes that hurt the family farm and small business.
I'm Brian Davis, and I approve this message because I'll shoot straight. What I say here is how I'll vote there.
And it's not just that Kamala Harris is a lying commie, it's that she is so damn patronizing, pandering. She should be called Kamala Panderbear because that's what she does. The clip that went viral yesterday, and I had to go find the original clip in context, of her seemingly developing a southern drawl in mid-speech. It was either that or an aneurysm. And you compare that to a speech she gave 5 hours earlier within close proximity. And if you happen to be one of the few people on the internet who has yet to see that ridiculous display of Kamala pandering, here's the clip in its entirety. It's a little long, but it's worth the watch.
And let me say, every person in our nation has benefited from that work. Everywhere I go, I tell people, look, you may not be a union member. You better thank a union member. For the 5-day work week, you better thank a union member for sick leave. You better thank a union member for paid leave. You better thank a union member for vacation time. Because what we know is when union wages go up, everybody's wages go up. When union workplaces are safer, every workplace is safer. When unions are strong, America is strong. We know what we're talking about. The labor movement has always understood the power of the collective.
Yeah, it's as bad as you think it is, and just for comparative purposes, here's a side-by-side. I think these are two speeches she gave the same day, separated by a matter of hours, some geographic distance, but clearly there was a difference in the audience, and she goes from Kamala, normal Kamala Harris, to Kamala Southern drawl, I dare say, you better thank a union member. What's that guy's name? The rooster from that cartoon back in the day, I forget its name.
Thank unions for sick leave. Thank unions for paid family leave. Thank unions for your vacation time. You better thank a union member for sick leave. You better thank a union member for paid leave. You better thank a union member for vacation time.
And I made the joke on Twitter that required, I think, a little bit too much of an explanation in order to work on Twitter. But I said, here's some leaked footage of Kamala Harris at the congregation of her husband, Doug Emhoff. And I showed a clip of Jackie Mason. It's funny, but I don't think enough people are going to get it.
It's harder for a doctor to be a crook in this country. In the United States, every doctor is a crook. There's no such thing as a doctor that's not a crook. They're all crooks. They're all crooks in this country, too, deep in their hearts. They would like to be a crook. They just didn't get a chance. They'll steal later.
The joke here is that Kamala Chameleon is such a chameleon, such a pander bear of a person, that if she goes to a congregation of Jewish people, she's going to start talking like Jackie Mason. Nobody got the joke. It was a terrible joke, I admit it. And like Kierkegaard astutely observed, life can only be understood backwards, yet it must be lived forwards. We can now go back and watch that clip of Donald Trump, for which he took a lot of flack, when he sat down for questions from the National Association of Black Journalists, and he jokingly said, I didn't know Kamala Harris was black. I thought she was Indian. In 2020, she was selling her Indian heritage to put herself out there as being the first Indian district attorney of California. I didn't know she was black until 2024, and my goodness, Kamala Harris goes out and does something like what she did the other day, thus proving that Donald Trump is not only right, the reason why people get mad at him is because he's right. It's the ultimate irony of people getting mad at you for saying something. Nobody gets mad at you for saying something stupid that's totally ill-founded or factually incorrect. They get mad at you when you make uncomfortable observations of reality. The reality is that Commie Kamala is a pandering chameleon, pandering Commie Kamala. She's got a lot of nicknames now. And in case you had any lingering doubts about whether or not Commie Kamala is going to come in and impose Commie Kamala policies, set aside the price fixing, the price limitations to prevent gouging, because apparently the inflation is caused by price gouging. No, set that aside. Apparently now she's going to come in and sign a bill for reparations.
But in the area of reparations for descendants of Africans enslaved, if you elected president, would you sign that bill if it came across your desk?
When I am elected president, I will sign that bill.
And you know what the ultimate kick in the teeth is for all of this? Kamala Harris, the first black female presidential candidate whose father is from Jamaica, her father under these reparation policies would have to pay reparations and not receive reparations because he is the descendant of slave owners and not slaves. Let that sink in for a moment.
And wait,
before we go any further, if you haven't already done it, take the 5 seconds that is required to hit that like button, that subscribe button, turn on notifications so that you get notified whenever I put out a video, because it really helps the channel grow. Snip, clip, and share away, and share my stuff with someone who you think would like it and someone who you think would not like it. But in summation,
Kamala Harris is a commie.
Kamala Harris is an aspiring dictator of the highest order who thinks that we benefit from mere privileges and not God-given rights. And if you vote for that, you are going to get what you deserve. The only problem is everyone else is going to get what they don't deserve. But that is the Commie Kamala news of the day. Make sure that you double check all of your news so you don't get caught spreading lies or disinformation or videos out of context. There is something of an operation going on right now. I firmly believe it's an operation. A video of someone claiming to have been the victim of a hit and run of Kamala Harris. My goodness, don't share that crap. Double check it, because if it seems too absurd to be true, it probably is. And I'm sure it's an operation to get conservatives to start spreading disinformation so they can then write off those individuals as disinformation spreaders so they can discredit them in the eyes of the the public in order to discredit the conservative side of things. TLDR, think before you tweet, double check before you tweet, and if you like what I do, you know what to do. If you want to get some amazing merch, vivafrei.com for some fantastic merch, vivabarneslaw.locals.com for our wonderful above average community. But more important than anything, exercise, eat healthy, vitamin D, talk to people in real life, and now you know your vlog. Peace out, peeps. Booyah!
Since when does the vice president have what sounds like a southern accent?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well,
I mean, this is...
she was talking about unions in Detroit using one tone of voice.
Is this something that you think...
Same line...
Okay, Peter,
that she used the same line in Pittsburgh, and it sounded like she at least had some kind of a southern drawl.
I mean, do you hear the question that you're... I mean, do you think Americans seriously think that this is an important question? They care... You know what they care about? They care about the economy. They care about lowering costs. They care about health care. That's what Americans care about.
So
that's what they want to hear.
This is something...
They care about, your colleague just asked me about what basically we talked about, went back and forth about democracy and freedom. That's what they care about. I'm not even going to entertain some question about the president. It's just hearing it sounds so ridiculous.
Well, but hearing it is...
The question I'm talking about, the question is just insane.
Is that how she talks in meetings here?
I'm just, Peter, we're moving on. We're still moving around. Go ahead, Anita.
Thanks.